Thank you, Min. So, thank you for having me. I'd like to just give you a brief update what is going on in the SPDX Fusa group. And this is not my usual crowd. I started a little bit from the beginning why we do this. So, okay. The idea behind this was to have a profile in SPDX that can describe a complete Fusa project, so the paper trail we have there, to enable, let's say, automated assessments, or have a unified way to hand over Fusa documentation from one party to another, to have this handshake in a more formal way that the stuff you consume in your project has the correct set of evidences, and mainly the paper trail. So the SPDX 3.0 model has a lot of things that, let's say, are very pleasing to the formalized Fusa expert eye. So we have an element that already comes with a lot of things that need to be defined, and also a really long list of relationships to bring all these elements, documents, work products, whatever we have, in context to each other. So that's what's there. And we do not invent the wheel completely new. So there are already other profiles to describe the needs for other domains, like, here's general software security, there's an AI profile, there's a build profile, there will be an operations profile. So there are a lot of profiles to serve the certain needs of certain groups of people. And actually, we already do have a Fusa profile, right? This is our Fusa profile. It's our V model. We have our supporting processes that somehow are connected in what we are doing in these in these documents and work products. And actually, we mainly have three kinds of documents in our Fusa documentation. We have the plans and processes and guidelines defining what we want to do or what we need to do. We have a bunch of requirements, specifications, so that's really grouping everything from high-level requirements over to architectural descriptions to design. And we have all this verification stuff, test cases, safety analyses, logs from here, from there. So that's the big three groups that we have. And actually, we all have this in different formats usually. So there are PDFs, there's stuff that lives in certain tools, and we still want to have everything in relationship to each other. And this is where the current problem comes in. We have breaks between the tools. We have no real, let's say, well way to describe this. And actually, there is, in the 20 years that I'm doing this now, there's one major number one exchange format for safety cases and safety documentation. And one is a format to bring up or to be the glue between all these tools, the connection. So our most favorite engineering tool, number one is Excel, number two is PowerPoint. And usually this also comes with a very well-defined title. And this is why I really try to, or we try as a group, to come up with something that more usable, more sustainable. So back to what we have from SPDX, and what we also have in the SPDX is we have these different kinds of SBOM that are really used for describing groups of work products or information that's there or that's created in different stages of a project. We have the design SBOM describing design stuff. So I don't think I need to explain more about it. The names are really speaking for themselves. And we can use our safety stuff to sort things into the SBOMs and have everything. And why not have something like this? Different kinds of SBOMs that come with the SPDX Fusa profile to move from this Excel thingy that is hard to maintain, hard to track and all that into a standardized format. So that's where we're coming from. And so this model, our Fusa model, looks a lot better like this, doesn't it? So the way we are tackling this now is, we have these three big groups of work products that we can describe with new classes derived from the main classes that we have in SPDX. So we have element that you've seen briefly in the core profile. There's also artifact. So there's a lot of stuff that we could derive our stuff from. And we started with requirement, coming up with what do we expect from a requirement, describing different things, needs to be atomic and all that blah. And then decided in the end that requirement needs to be derived from element, because element already has a lot of stuff that we can use. And then come up with some different things that are add on the requirement. Like what we can reuse is we need a unique ID, but also already SPDX, the element comes with a unique ID, so we can use that. Also the creation info that comes already from element. This contains the agent who created that, the date it was created. So that it already comes with a lot of stuff that we safety people, or let's say at least even requirements management people, quality people expect from a requirement. So this is the current state. I think I don't need to read this to you. What we want to have in the profile. So if you have ideas and objections and questions, so just let me know. And here's the next one. And we also already come up with ideas on how to put requirements into relationship to each other. So the cascading of requirements from high level to lower level can be described. This is has requirement relationship that is already there. We can also this implements or implemented by, use this implemented by relationship for the other direction of traceability. We can group sets of requirements to get complete requirement sets, what the name said, on certain levels, like the system level requirements, the functional level requirements, the unit level requirements, whatever you want to derive. And these sets then could go into a specification to get a more formal document in the end. There's also the possibility to trace to tests and to the evidences that are created within tests. Want to say something?
And the link back to sources.
And the link back to sources, yeah. That's the lowest one, software artifact. That's rather small, I'm sorry for that. The lowest level that's here is software artifact. That is already in the 3.0 profile, just simply describing software as it is, that code and everything. One of the points that we are currently discussing is a requirement usually, or very often isn't a one-off thing. It's usually used in different versions of a product. It will be, or it has in reality instances of it that for different product variants will have different values, and how to describe that in a formal way so that we can trace and that we can hopefully on just one generation loop generate everything that's then relevant for this product variant. So as you can see, there's a lot of chaos still going on. So this is what we're currently discussing. The example here on the right side, just to explain what our current issue is there. So that's really top notch what's going on in the last 2 weeks. So we do not have a solution yet. So open for a suggestion. Everybody is welcome all the time. And the next thing that we are also looking into is this plans, processes, guidelines thing. And one thing that we already came up with, is that we need to describe the tasks, and a process or a plan is nothing else than a hierarchy or a group of tasks. So the next thing to describe is really the tasks that need to be performed. Yeah, so the paper here is, I think the takeaway point that we really need to have at least the content of elements, so we'll derive it from element. It needs to have, like this typical process engineering, inputs, outputs, definition of done, who will be responsible. Just like in every description, the current idea behind this is, deriving it from element, adding content about, what's this task about, what's the task type. There's already the nice concept of lifecycle scope type. We will just add on this. This is a class, I think. It's a class. Yeah. And we can, so it already has development, operation, and stuff like that.
And the hardware folk are also trying to do the same class, so we're having a lot of work. We're doing a lot of work to try to make sure we get common concepts between what the hardware folk need to do from a task perspective, and what the safety folk need to do. So we have the right abstraction levels.
Yeah, I come to that.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things also is we can already use existing SPDX functionality in describing which or relating which tool to use with this task and how to configure this tool. So in the end, when you look into actual projects or actual process definitions, you have the process definition, but usually you don't have, hopefully you don't have this defined which tool to use. So this is a more flexible thing. So it doesn't make sense to have it in the task and have it as a relationship so that you can have several instances and say, in this instance, we did this task with this tool and it has been configured in this way, and the configuration item is nothing more than a software item like we already have. On the same note, we also need to get more definitions on the agent, who is doing stuff. We need to come up with an agent type. So this is the first draft for this. And the important thing, why do we want to record who did something? We want to know if the person or organization or tool or script or whatever, whoever did this has the right qualification. So this is also something to record along with that. And with this comes a lot of enums that we might want to have to describe things in a more formalized way. It might make sense for some things. We tried to come up with a list of roles, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and I think it will never be complete. So most probably this will be moved to a string. And as Kate already mentioned, we have a lot of alignment going on with the hardware group for the hardware profile, because in the beginning, we just had action. So what you see now as task was already also named action, and the hardware guys also came up with action. And this caused a lot of discussions and misunderstanding. And we came up with the differentiation in the end. So what we as the Fusa group meant with action and what the hardware group meant with action. And so the hardware group was really focusing a lot on when do I create things in a physical way? And we were like, how do we want to create documents, more or less? So, and this is why we're differentiating now between task and action, which makes a lot of sense in the end, because an action always comes with a recording on when and how exactly something has been done, while why we wanted to have the task really describing how things need to be done and not when they have been done. Because from our perspective, the when and the who and maybe even the where or the environment something has been done in is already described in our artifact. So our requirement, as you have seen, it already has the agent, it has a timestamp. it has a relationship to, the task has a relation to a tool. So we don't need another thing recording that we have done something, because the artifact in the end that we have already has everything about where, who did it, when has it been done, and what was the environment for it. So we don't need, for, let's say, these pure digital things, we don't need this full-blown action that the hardware guys did. But discussing things in the end, yeah, we will, it's something going into the task, and the action will become both important for the Fusa profile the moment we think about how do we describe flashing of our software to a hardware. When we describe really assembling an ECU completely together, it's not only software or not only hardware. And we will have software physically being moved onto a device, and the device then will be handled and put into a bigger device until we have something that we ship. So
part of this is so that we can eventually model systems,
yeah, so this is
whatever elements we need to do.
yeah, so this is more the things that we currently have. So the task really describing this process engineering level, what needs to be done, why do we need it, who is doing it, what's the input, what's the output. Also coming with the optional task monitoring if we have external monitoring of it, and the action really has a start date, has an end date, has a location, so that we really see something has physically been done. Yeah, that was a discussion I've been already talking about. And yeah, so this is stuff that's still completely open. So we have plans for coming up with verification, most probably elements, describing a test case, describing an analysis, whatever. So it's completely open still how to do that. If we wanted to have some element from artifacts, we don't know. So it's just to show you, there's still a lot of work to do. The same with evidence. So an evidence that is then the evidence that a test has been done, that an analysis has been done, that there is some coverage on a test. For sure, it needs to be done by an agent, okay, there's still action, so it needs to be described by a task, but we still don't know in the end how we want to have it in the end. And so, yeah, could be an element, could be an artifact. In the minimum, it will have a type and a result, but yeah, in the end, it will have much more, I think. And yeah, that's a story to be continued. If you want to talk more about it, talk to Kate or talk to me. We have a mailing list. That's a clickable link. We meet each Friday at 6 in the evening European time. So I'm very sorry for the Asian people, but if you want, we can always arrange something outside of this. I'm very sorry for everybody in Europe who has kids. And yeah, otherwise
if there's enough people showing up from Asia, or wanting to show up from Asia, we can adjust the times.
We can adjust the times. We can also have 2 meetings. I don't care actually. It's like, the more people we have to have input from, the better.
Okay. Mark online has asked to talk about, I'm not familiar with SPDX and its planned enhancements. Would it make sense to state baseline set of requirements, such as requirements such as this, instead of individual requirements?
Yes, that's one of the application cases or use cases of the requirements set.
I would also add to it is what we're doing is coming up with a set of requirements. We're just you could export it into one document and say this is your baseline for some product, but these requirements may be reused in other contexts. And if you're working with a product line, you may want to have things moving through, and so you only want it instantiated once.
That was going to be my biggest question here. It looks like you're trying to map the entire universe here. Is that the intention? Is the intention to capture everything that ever happens on a project?
We're not trying to. We're basically giving you the language to map the universe.
Yeah.
And it's going to be those who need to take it to a certain level have the ability to take it to that level. We're not prescriptive about the level you're taking it to.
Yeah.
All we're doing is giving you a methodology and a language to do it with.
Yeah, one important point in the discussions usually also is what do we make optional and what is a must? So I like to have as many things optional as possible, really to have the ability to, have stuff smaller and as a minimum solution, and on the same time providing just a chance to go into full-blown aerospace mode.
If you want to map every, as you say, every nut and bolt is the equivalent of
Yeah.
every single action where every single. Yeah, I guess that's the thing is what, how do you decide what is necessary?
I think in the end, when you use this to generate a safety SBOM, whoever is consuming this will have their checks on the SBOM they consume, and then say, okay, this artifact is not in this SBOM. We need that, and then maybe.
Yeah.
And I think the important thing to recognize is SBOMs are just documents at points in time. Everyone's consuming it into their own databases and using that linked relationships to actually be able to reason and do policy analysis about things over time. And so we've set up a structure so you can bring it into databases or export what's known at a point in time.
So
And
it's an
exchange
exchange
it.
medium,
That's
yeah.
why it's SPDX exchange format. But realistically, that common element lets us take and put these things into databases and lets policies reason about them and explore things as things get changed. So for instance, you may have a set of requirements now, but you come up with a new version of your product. You're going to be reusing a lot of them. You don't want to copy the whole thing all over and over again. You just want to link and change your relationships to say, this top set is pointing to all of these requirements that already have had the traceability established.
So it gives you the ability to represent the relationships that are in the metadata in whatever format.
Right.
So there's metadata that's stored in a diverse variety of formats. You're bringing it together and being able to represent it in a unified way.
Yeah, so that really on the exchange format, and also when you think about when a project is moving forward and it's worked a little bit on this part and then somebody works on that part, and maybe just a few weeks later somebody to clean up things will be there, but at least you can generate this and analyze it and say, hey, this is the current state what we have in the project, and yeah, there might be documentation missing here, requirements missing, or agent qualification evidence missing, whatever, but you can still generate the whole thing. And if whoever consumes this does not care about this,
So evidence is evidence.
true, it's evidence of absence.
Yeah, go for it, Luigi.
Quick question about use of SPDX for exchange between tools. So there is some best practice to put custom data that a tool can generate for our item that so the case is not as I'm aware of a tool that is generating the traceability metrics in SPDX. I have inside my work items definition some custom fields that I made my own decision on how to put those data, but this is not the same that has been done from other tools, so the exchange is not, let's say, straightforward, no? So there are some.
So
best
so
practice that
bring
everyone can-
these things to us so that we can reconcile and come up with common fields for you in the next version.
I think one of the main issues that we already have is when you think about the rec-if format, and if you really want to exchange all the requirements, so we really want to export requirements from one tool using rec-f and import it to another tool using rec-f. If you have custom fields, and in 99% of the cases you will have custom fields, you will have to script something in the middle still. The goal that we have with SPDX here is a little bit different. So we don't want to export and import complete sets of requirements from one tool or the other. What we really want to have is a handshake between these tools, where the tools just say, hey, I'm complete on this side, and the other tools say, I'm complete on my side. And on the bare minimum, that the requirements are traceable, that they are there, that they have the evidences, not really exporting stuff from here and then doing some magic and importing it somewhere else. So this is something we really need to avoid, because that's one of the horrors of automotive requirements engineering for me, that you have an doors export that you need then to bring into your door system, and it's just,
You-
I have
to
PTSD.
exchange format
Exchange
itself.
also sounds
Yeah.
like something that you can do.
You have
now.
version
Yeah.
A, version B, and you exchange, you lose half of it.
Yeah.
So is there does SPDX include this idea of, I want this, I'm expecting this, and you're providing this, or is it? Well, you kind of talked about this handshake. Is that kind of built into the?
So that would be a tooling that then needs to be built on top of that, but the
Got it.
model is able to,
Yeah.
you know, you describe in the model what you have, or you describe in with this model what you want,
Yeah.
and then somebody with more coding experience than I have will hopefully come up with a script or a tool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Question. So by looking at the requirement fields there, right? So there are fields, now, right now we are working on low-level requirements for the kernel, and there are fields that are not, that are different, basically.
Funny that,
Huh?
funny that.
Yeah. So I was wondering, like, at some stage, I would expect that if you wanted to trace Linux kernel requirement up to
Uh-huh.
these requirements
Yeah.
somehow. It
So
can happen,
we'll
right?
have a unique ID
Uh-huh.
that's established already. We have and we also have the text, and the text is showing up in the requirement, the script requirement statement would go in the text.
Uh-huh.
And then the requirement link, like the linkage, the pointer effectively
Uh.
is effectively a relationship.
yeah, and the only thing you do not have in a written format there is the creation info, but you have the creation info in all the information you have on the
In
repo.
GitHub. Yeah.
Because you know who did it and when was it done. So you do have all the information that's not optional here.
And you can mine it to put it in and populate it in with the tools.
Yeah.
So, well, okay, now, but understand. So now, I mean, indeed, you know, I can see that you can have the traceability. What I want to say is that, so this is a requirement template that is generic at product level, whereas for the Linux kernel,
We're
using
populating the template.
a new template effectively.
Well, yeah, what we're doing in this kernel is summarizing what fields are gonna make sense from the kernel perspective to track.
Yeah.
And then we should be able, anything we come up with there, we should be able to map into this and adjust this to make sure that everything is harmonious.
Okay.
Okay, this is work in progress, guys. You're not seeing the finished product
Yeah.
here. Okay, so it is very much subject to what is useful in the field, what implementations are happening, where do we need it to go, so we can adjust it to that.
Okay, that's
Okay.
a particular requirement is 3.1.
Yeah,
Yes.
this will all go to 3.1. 3.0 is out. And you can mock a lot of some stuff up in 3.0 today. But what we're trying to do is make sure that we can take these things to be first-class objects in 3.1.
Yeah, see, the way we are currently color coding here is everything that is completely black is new, and everything that has a color comes from an already existing class, like content identifier, or the purple things come from element, the pink stuff comes from non-element type classes. So there is a lot of things there. So like, and you could even, there is, I think in element, there is a comment field. So you could use the comment field for your requirement statement. It's just not very nice, I think. But in the end, you could already use element.
But the thing is, you may want to comment, the decision to leave to do a separate field was you may want to comment about the requirement statement. Put some sort of, guidance or something like that, or some sort of reasoning or something like that.
Like the note field that we used.
Exactly.
So,
So one more question,
Last
3.1.
question then, because.
Yeah.
3.1 ensure back compatibility with the 3.2.
Yes. I hear a lot of,
Yeah.
must not have breaking changes.
We won't break 3.0. And we can always use extension classes for things that are not in 3.0 if we need to. So what you're sort of doing with the extensions right now. Hopefully, most of this will handle it, but let's talk. If there's things you see.
So then I would ask Håkan, do you want to go to the front?
Yeah, one last thing.
I think we have at least 3 last things if you go that way.
Talk with you.
Yeah.
Started. Okay, I have a question, your connection to the code base, this
Yeah.
requirement and test.
Yeah.
I looked into a tool many years ago called Doorstep, probably inspired by doors. But it seems that it's a very slow Python based, but it's beauty. You
There,
can-
there are a lot of tools like Doorstop out there that are more beautiful than Doorstop.
Yeah, okay.
But I think that's another topic.
Yeah.
And I think we really need to take it to the break
Yeah.
with the other questions. Sorry.
It's a very short, while Håkan is setting up.
Um,
If you haven't placed your pizza order, I have a direct link now.
Full strict on,
Yeah,
it must be more beautiful than
I made a request if you have.
Okay, then Nicole, you just stop sharing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Stop